Kuzuzangpo, welcome to Bhutan e-learning program. This is an environmental science lesson for Key Stage 5, that is for classes 11 and 12. I am Mahendra Timsina from Teshin Choling Higher Secondary School. Before we begin with the lesson, let us look at two pictures. The first one on my right and the second one on my left. Let us make some observations. Let us see what we can observe in the first picture. We can see the environment is very clean. The picture looks so beautiful because of the clean environment. There's less settlement and also less disturbances. However, if you look at the second picture here, the case is a little different. We see a lot of settlement first. Second one, the environment looks quite dirty. In other words, it looks polluted. And a lot of people live there. There are also some industries. Now let me pose you two questions. First one, where would you prefer to live? Is it in the place shown in first picture or is it in the place shown in the second picture? And the second question here is why? So for me personally, I'd love to live in the first place. So let us study pollution to understand more about why I made my choice and also why you all made your choices. Now let us look at some of the objectives for the lesson today. So at the end of the lesson, we all should be able to comprehend few things. Firstly, we should be able to explain what pollution is. And we should also be able to write down the causes of pollution. Now, after we have understood the causes, it is also important for us to relate pollution to global warming. As we know, global warming is a trending issue. That's why we should always be able to relate it. And most important of all, we should be able to weigh whether pollution is good or not. And if it is not, then we should also be able to identify some of the impacts of pollution on biodiversity, human health, and in general to the environment. Now, let us study about pollution. How can we define pollution? So let us define pollution. It can be defined as addition of substances to the environmental components which can lead to adverse effects of the physical, chemical, and biological properties of the environment. For example, we can say addition of waste to water can lead to adverse effect in the water. It can change the chemical properties of water, biological properties of water, and also physical properties of water. So to understand pollution more, let us study about pollutants. So what are pollutants? Let us look at some of the pollutants that we know. So let us look on the right. We can see sulfur dioxide, a common pollutant, ozone, and also nitrous oxide. These three are commonly known for polluting air. Similarly, on my left, plastic wastes, e-wastes, chemicals, chemical fertilizers. These are some of the pollutants that we commonly come across in our everyday life. Their concentration in the environment, it can lead to adverse effect to the environmental components. Now, as we know some of the pollutants, let us try classifying pollutants into two types. So, generally, the pollutants are classified into two categories. The first one on my right, let us say, is primary pollutants, and the one on my left are secondary pollutants. So if you look at the primary pollutants, these are normal gases like carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, sulfur dioxide, or we can say SPM, which is suspended particulate matters. We call them primary pollutants because they are produced directly from the source. Once they are produced by the source, they begin to act as a pollutant, causing different effect on the environment. However, on my left, these are some of the secondary pollutants. So these acids, we commonly know them coming in acid rain. They are not directly produced by the source as acids. However, some of the primary pollutants, after they are produced, they react by some sort of chemical reactions and they change to form the secondary pollutants. And the secondary pollutants are far more harmful as compared to the primary pollutants. So to have a good insight on the formation of the secondary pollutant, let us look at this image. What we see here is carbon dioxide, sulfur dioxide, and nitrous oxide being produced. After they are produced, they enter the atmosphere where they react with water to form three different types of acids. These acids come down in the form of acid rain, and they cause a lot of adverse effect to the atmosphere as well as other components of the environment. As we studied about pollutants, it is also important for us to understand where they come from. So let us look at some of the sources. So these sources are some of the anthropogenic and natural activities. So if you look here, the first one is agriculture. We know for agriculture, a lot of chemical fertilizers are used. When we use chemical fertilizers, the fertilizers pose a threat. They cause unnecessary, undesirable modification of air, land, as well as water. The second one is volcano. We know it is a natural activity, still it causes large-scale pollution. In simple, it causes pollution of air, and mostly it modifies the entire land around. The third image here is industry. In the image, as it is represented, we see some factories and a lot of smoke coming. So that directly depicts air pollution. Apart from that, there are other secondary activities. For industries, transportation has to be developed. During transportation, a lot of pollution occurs. Second one is, there are a lot of waste generated because of the industrial processes. So because of the waste can lead to land pollution, and also when the industrial waste are dumped into water, it causes water pollution. Apart from that, one important thing is the activities that we can see around us, that is construction. If you look in Thimphu alone, a lot of constructions are going on. Construction is also one major activity which has led to a lot of pollution, mostly in terms of land pollution and also water pollution, because huge amount of land is covered during construction, and also a lot of water is used, and the waste generated is thrown, and that waste is a big problem now. So other than this, let me pose you one simple question. Can you think of activities around, a lot of activities, be it industrial activities, be it household activities? Can you try doing a small research on activities around us that can cause different types of pollution. So as we know, there are this many varieties of activities, be it natural or anthropogenic, that can cause threat to environment. Now let us look at three important types of pollution which are globally known as. The first one is air pollution, second one is land pollution, and the third one is water pollution. So we will be studying individually about these three different types of pollution and also their impact to the environment and human health. Number one, air pollution. So what is air pollution? Can we define air pollution easily? Before we move directly to the definition, let us think about one simple activity that we do in our day-to-day lives. Let us say, sweeping our floor. As a simple example, whenever we are sweeping our floor, we see a lot of dust particles are thrown out, they are blown away. Just a simple activity like sweeping our floor can lead to addition of small particles to the atmosphere. Now, can we imagine how a big process can lead to? Commonly, there are few important things that we should know. Be it natural process or man-made activities, they always emit some agents, some pollutants. So before going to pollutants, we can define air pollution as addition of undesirable substances to the atmosphere which can bring in undesirable change to the air and which will lead to the diminish in the quality of air that we breathe. So some of the examples of air pollutants are given here. The first one, the oxides of nitrogen again. Second one, the oxides of sulfur. Third one, carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide. The fourth one can be greenhouse gases. And out of all, the most common one is methane. The next one can be ozone. And all in all, SPM, we call them as suspended particulate matters. We can categorize the suspended particulate matters into PM10 and PM2.5. PM10 here means small particles having a diameter of about 10 micrometers, whereas PM2.5 here is again smaller particles. It can be small, very small solid particles which have a diameter of about 2.5 micrometers. So to understand air pollution better and to quantify the amount of pollutants present in the atmosphere, environmental scientists came up with one index called as air quality index. So if you look on this side, we have the scale here. So this scale particularly tries to check whether the air is good for human health. So AQI is the measure of particles and the chemicals in the atmosphere which may affect human health. So as we look at here on the scale, what we see is if the value of AQI is more, the atmosphere is more polluted. So in the beginning you will see if the value comes in between 0 to 50, it means the quality of air is good, which means the amount of pollutant in the atmosphere is quite less, and then it's good for human health. However, as we go on, when we reach somewhere around 400, that means the particles, the density of air is not very suitable for human use. That's why we call that as a highly polluted air. We might have seen a lot of news. And mostly in the most populated cities around the world, the AQI value comes to be very high. That's why many times there will be news saying that this city, the atmosphere is not fit for breathing. The air is poisonous. All these things are there because of the presence of huge amount of pollutants in the atmosphere. Number two, land pollution. Again, let me show you one important picture here. We see a very disturbing picture. The entire land is covered with wastes and some animals feeding in that area. What comes into your mind when you look at this picture? This picture has some important message to convey. We see the entire land is modified. Apart from that, we should think about those animals. These animals are not safe because there are no grasses growing around. And then they feed on the waste products, which can harm them. So this is basically one simple way, a simple example of land pollution. So what is land pollution? So when we say land pollution, there are different ways of understanding land pollution. It is not just chemical modification. Whenever we talk about pollution, we always believe in something is added and then chemical changes there. But when we say land pollution, there are many things that we should know. Firstly, physical modification of land. A simple example is agriculture. Large scale agriculture leads to modification of the earth's surface, the surface of the land. That is one form of pollution, a form of land pollution. So we can define land pollution as the physical modification and chemical alteration of the land, making it unfit for human use as well as for the survival of organisms in it. Again, just like what we did before, let us look at some of the common activities that can cause land pollution. The first one is littering. We call that as littering because a lot of plastic wastes, which are non-biodegradable, they are often thrown away. And once those non-biodegradable substances persist on land, they cause a lot of problem. So littering can be one good example of an activity causing land pollution, and non-biodegradable substances or waste like plastic can be one good example of land pollutant. The second one is automobile wastes. We know there are a lot of automobile workshops coming up. Have you ever observed the area around the automobile workshops? We see a lot of wastes, maybe like oil filters, a lot of tires, a lot of engine parts thrown out, not taken care of, and most important of all, it is the petroleum products which are spilled over the land. This petroleum product lead to chemical modification. Third important thing is deforestation. Since coming of industries and also for agriculture, we have cleared a lot of forests. A lot of huge amount of forest is being cleared just for industries, agriculture, and human settlement. Now let us look at what happens once a forest is cleared. Forests have that ability to hold minerals because of that, the anchorage, because of their roots which hold the soil particles. So once we clear the forests, then we actually welcome soil erosion. And once soil erosion starts to occur, it will wash away a lot of nutrients from that patch of land. And that area is physically as well as chemically modified. It is not uncommon. We always have cited that example where deforestation in large scale can lead to the formation of desert. That is one good example of how we polluted the area. Formation of desert because of deforestation leads, actually it is because the land is physically modified. The third one is water pollution. Dumping of wastes or other substances into water causes water pollution. If we look at, we can find those three different changes in water. The first one is physical, the second one is chemical, and third one is biological. If we add waste into the water, it changes the water clarity. In other terms, it modifies the turbidity. Second one, if some chemical substances are added to water, then the pH of water will change. If the pH of water is changed, it can modify, it can alter the oxygen composition of water. And if the oxygen composition of water is changed, then organisms cannot survive in water. And that leads to the modification of biological property of water. In simple, biological property here means variety of living organisms that are present in water bodies, the biodiversity there. And just because of addition of some substances, it can lead to the loss of a lot of life forms in a water body. As we talked a lot of things about pollution and pollutants, now let us look at what can be some of the possible impacts of pollution. Can you think of some of them? Have we seen some of the impacts? I would say yes. There are a lot of impacts which are seen but are not realized. So if I have to specify, here are some of them. The first one is habitat destruction. Second one is eutrophication. Third one is biomagnification. Fourth one is outbreak of diseases. And the fifth one, greenhouse effect, or in long run, global warming. So let us briefly look at what are these things. The first one, destruction of habitat. Let me show you one image here. This is a common diagram, common photo that we always see. It is Pune Jangshu, the project area. Sometimes ago it was very clean, but now we see the entire landscape is changed. There might have been a lot of animals, a lot of organisms living in the surrounding area as well as in the water body there. However, because of one human activity, that is construction of hydro project there, it caused modification of that area. And then it has become a threat for survival of one critically endangered bird called as white-bellied heron. The second one that I would like to show you is eutrophication. The water body looks green. Why is it? It is because of the fertilizers that we use in our fields. I mean the chemical fertilizers here. You see, when we use a lot of fertilizers, some of them might be used by the plants. However, a a lot of them are washed away during rainfall by surface runoff, and they are carried to the surrounding water bodies. And once those fertilizers reach the water bodies, the nutrients are used by small plants like algae, and they start to grow very fast. And once they grow very fast, they will cover the entire surface, which will make that water body unfit for other organisms to live. Globally, a lot of cases comes every year. So pollution is found to have a variety of impacts on human health. Some of the most common impacts are, or the common diseases are, skin-related issues, cancer, cardiovascular diseases, and most important is the respiratory disorder, which is always talked throughout the globe. And the other important impact of pollution is greenhouse effect. As I specified earlier, there are some gases called as greenhouse gases. So if you look here, you can see how greenhouse gases affect the atmosphere. The greenhouse gases cause one effect called as greenhouse effect, whereby heat which is radiated by the Earth's surface is trapped in the atmosphere, leading to the increase in the atmospheric temperature. And greenhouse effect has been one major issue because in long run it will lead to global warming. Now, as we have studied about pollutants, pollution, impacts, now let me give you few questions for you to take home and to study, to learn more about pollution and its impact. Firstly, I would like you to try to do a small research on biomagnification. So, as it is given here, can you try to find how biomagnification can affect human health? Or in general, can you do a research to find how biomagnification affects the environment? In second, how does our lifestyle contributes to pollution? And third one, if you are staying at home or be it in hostels, try to maintain a small log of activities or try to maintain a small log of the things that you use and see what is the waste generated and how would that contribute to the environmental pollution. So that's all for today's lesson. So please be home and stay safe. Thank you.